everyone, my name is Rachel. I've been asked by a few people to show how to get into headstand correctly, in and out. So I wanted to show that and also show some preparatory poses that we can do beforehand to prepare the body to get into headstand. So headstand is a pretty advanced pose, so you definitely want to prepare your body before doing it. I just did a yoga class, so my body feels nice and warm for it, and I've also been practicing for a while, so I know my body and its limits, pushing it to its edge and not pushing past anything. So really listen to your body for this one. It is a great pose because it's great for the digestion, it's great for the lymphatic system, and it's great if you have a headache also. Actually, it's great because it releases a lot of tension in the upper body. However, it is, since you're placing your head on the ground, you are putting weight on the head and the neck. You don't want to do it if you do have head or neck issues, or if you have eye issues like glaucoma, and also if you have a history of stroke. And there's just a few things like that that you want to be aware of before doing this pose. So just think about that before doing it. And yeah, so we're going to, like I said, we are going to be putting weight on the head, but we're only putting about 30% of our weight in our head and our neck, and then the other 70% is going to be in our arms and in our upper body, and trying to really use our arms and the strength of our arms and shoulders to use that 70%, to have that 70% of our body weight in it. So I have a strap here to show you one thing that you can do also with the strap, because you do want your arms to be shoulder distance apart. So I'm going to show you that first. So like I said, there are two poses that I'm going to show also that are great preparatory poses. They kind of show the same component parts of a headstand. So those two poses are Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog, and dolphin. I don't think there's a Sanskrit word for that one. So those are two great poses to do to prepare your body. And if you can hold a downward facing dog and dolphin pose for about 15 seconds easily, and have all these parts of it correct, then you can move into headstand. So let's first talk about downward facing dog and why that is a great preparatory pose for Sirsasana headstand. So it's great because it's showing you what you want to do with your arms. So I'll get a little bit closer here. So you want to have an external rotation of your upper arms here. So what is external rotation? So that means whenever your arms, when you're rolling your triceps down and rolling your biceps up. So an internal rotation will be where you're almost like caving in like this, you're caving your chest in. An external rotation, you're opening, you're broadening across the collarbone, you're rolling the biceps up and the triceps down. And then of course in downward facing dog, we're keeping this steady here and then just turning the hand, turning the lower part of our arm and our hand down onto the ground. So if you want to try that first, so you can place your hands for downward facing dog. I like to have them the width of my mat. You want to have them about shoulder distance or wider. So you're pressing down through all parts of the hand. Of course, in headstand, we're going to have our arms down, but for downward facing dog here, and let's try that. Let's just try not even coming up into downward facing dog. Just try rolling your triceps down, your biceps up. So you're opening up, you're broadening across the collarbone. And then also, whenever you do this, think about softening right here, softening those front ribs. So you see what happens whenever I do this, whenever I broaden across my collarbone, I'm almost arching my back down. Let's then soften these front ribs towards my back ribs. So try that a few times and just feel what that feels like in your body. All right, so then next, like I said, dolphin pose is a great preparatory pose, and that's because you're finding the same part of the arm, you're using the arms in the same way as headstand, and it's almost like an in-between of headstand and downward facing dog, because the bottom half of your body in dolphin is like downward facing dog, and then this part, your arms and everything, are like headstand. So it's almost like an in-between pose, which is cool. So we want to have our elbows shoulder distance apart. So the way that we can find shoulder distance is just grab your elbows like this, and that's about shoulder distance. Then keeping your hands, our elbows here, let's bring our hands together and interlace our fingers. Then from here, we are pulling our pinkies out. So you can either have your pinkies out like that. I like to have them like this, or you can tuck one pinky in like that, so that we just have a flush surface on the ground. So a flush surface whenever we place it down on the ground. So coming down, finding that shoulder distance like this, bringing the arms out, interlacing the fingers, keeping the pinkies out. And then let's think about what we just did for downward facing dog, the external rotation. So opening up across the collarbone, rolling those triceps down, the biceps up like this. And that's almost also keeping your elbows at shoulder distance, which I like. So we're really doing that. And then really pressing down through the outer edge of your arm, through your forearm, through the outer edge of your hand. You're really using it. Like I said, we only want to have 30% of the weight on the crown of our head. We don't want to have any more than that because, of course, our neck and our head, they're very fragile. We don't want to do anything to those parts of our bodies. So we're using our forearms, our arms, and really pressing down there. So I did say earlier that if you have a strap, this is a great thing to use to find that shoulder distance, to keep that shoulder distance. So making a loop, and then you can bring it out, and again, maybe make it a little smaller. And then you're using that so that you can keep that shoulder distance. Maybe whenever you come up into headstand, you feel your arms start to come out, and we don't want that. The thing about the strap is, whenever you are using it, you're not relying on it. So I always thought that I should be pushing out into the strap, but really I'm using that as my marker for where my shoulder distance is. And I'm actually trying to soften the strap, trying to loosen the strap. That way I'm not relying on the strap to keep me in headstand and keep my arms like that. It's almost just a guide for you to know what your shoulder distance is. Okay, so coming up into dolphin, let's find all those parts that we just talked about. So finding shoulder distance, and I'm up against a wall here just because I thought, of course, if I do a video, I'll fall out of my headstand. So it's good to have a wall, of course, whenever you're starting also, just to have that kind of safety net behind you whenever we get up into headstand. So bringing our elbows, our forearms down, finding that shoulder distance by grabbing the elbows, bringing the hands out and interlacing the fingers, and bringing those pinkies out. Then let's bring our knees back a little bit, and really think about here, finding that external rotation, opening up across the collarbone, pressing through the forearms, and then let's tuck the toes and bring our bottom up, bring our feet in, the same as you would do for downward facing dog, but now we're in dolphin. And just see what this feels like. Again, we're pressing the floor away with our forearms and our elbows. We're broadening across the collarbone and softening the shoulders away from the ears at the same time. And again, like I said, getting into headstand, you want to be able to hold a pose like dolphin for 10, 15 breaths. And being mindful the whole time of pressing the floor away with your arms. Pressing down with the elbows. Really reaching up. If you want, you can start to bring one leg up at a time, kind of really working your arms, really working your body. Take a couple more breaths here. And then coming down to your knees. And after any inversion, coming into child's pose for just a couple breaths. So that's a pretty intense pose. That's a great pose to do if you want to work on your upper body strength. It's definitely, like I said, an intense pose. It's definitely very active. And it's good because, like I said, we want to be able to hold that for about 10 to 15 breaths steadily, and finding all those parts and really thinking about our arms and using our arms for our weight to get into headstand. Okay, so now using the parts from downward facing dog and dolphin, now we're going to come up into headstand. Again, make sure that your body is well prepared for this before doing it. And the only part that we're going to be adding on, of course, bringing our legs up, but also putting our head down on the ground. So putting the crown of our head down on the ground. So where's the crown of your head? So you can find the crown of your head, a roundabout place, using the heel of your hand, putting it on the bridge of your nose up here, and then wherever your middle finger hits, that's about the crown of your head. So you can find that space there. See what that feels like, where that is. Now we're putting our head down on the crown of our head because we want to keep the natural curve of our neck. So think about whenever if you put it forward, your neck might be like that. If you put it too far back, then you're over tucking your chin and you're rounding your neck forward. So we want to make sure that we're just keeping a natural curve to our neck for headstand. Okay, so using all of those parts, I'm going to show you there are two ways that you can get into headstand. So placing our arms down like we did before, placing the crown of the head down, engaging our core, and then slowly walking our feet like dolphin towards our body. The way that I like to come up into it is to first bring my knees into the chest and then hold it there for a couple breaths, and that could be as far as you get. And then you can work up from there. And then from there, bringing the legs straight up. Or the other way is to, again, bring your feet in as close as you can, and then just bring your legs straight up from there. Maybe one at a time, maybe both at the same time. I think that way, of course, is a little bit more difficult and something to work up to, but let's try it. Let's see. Okay, so placing our arms down, shoulder distance, interlacing the fingers, bringing the pinkies out. And then right here is where I'm starting to already broaden across the collarbone, engage my core, pressing through the forearms, and then bringing my hands into a cup also, so they're almost just cupping the back of my head. And then bringing the knees up, walking the feet in. Again, taking a pause here to lift the shoulders away from the ears. And then bringing one knee in at a time. Taking a couple breaths here. And then slowly coming up, pressing through the forearms, lifting the shoulders. And remembering to breathe. And then slowly coming down, if you want to come down in the same way that you came in, if you can. And coming into child's pose again, of course, since it's an inversion. And then I'll show you the other way. Let's see if I can do it though. I typically come in that way, so let's see the other way. So again, finding that placement with the arms, pressing away the floor, finding that cup with my hands to find the crown of my head on the ground, walking the feet in, again, lifting my shoulders. I'm constantly telling myself to lift my shoulders away from my ears. And then, oh, coming up. And again, lifting the shoulders away from the ears, pressing through the forearms, pressing through the outer edge of the hands. And then slowly, with control, lowering down. Oh, a little bit harder than I want to come down, but and then coming into child's pose. And just taking a couple breaths here. We just want to make sure that we're not coming up too quickly because we just had all the blood rushing towards our head, and then we don't want to just come up too fast and get lightheaded. So that is how you get into headstand safely. And again, maybe just work your way up. Maybe just start doing downward facing dog and seeing how long you can hold it and thinking of all those component parts. And then the same with dolphin, maybe trying that, maybe lifting one leg up at a time and seeing how long you can hold each leg. Just work your way up, and like I said, this is a pretty advanced pose, so don't think that you should just jump into it because we don't want to, of course, hurt ourselves. So just be mindful of your body and have fun. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.